Good afternoon, my name is Ganning, and today we're going to be working on step 3 of week 2, which is getting emotional with the Face API. And what this step is going to teach you how to do is we're going to, by the end of this step, we're going to be able to send our API an image, and at the end of our processing, we're going to be able to get back a list of attributes about our image, right? Let's say we send them a picture of a person smiling. Our API would tell them that they're happy. We would also get the coordinates of their face attributes, etc. So while that may sound a bit complicated to do, it's actually not as bad as you think, because there's something called Microsoft Azure that will do all the machine learning for you. So all we have to do in our step right here is create our function, take in the image, and at the end, send our image to the API, grab our image, or grab the response back from that API call, and then send that response back to the user. So let's get started. It says, add Face API keys and endpoints into your function app's application settings. To get our API keys from our Face API, what we can do is we can go into our Azure, my Face API resources right here. To find your key, you can go click right here. And my key one, I'm going to expose mine, but usually I'm going to be deleting this resource right afterwards, so usually you would not show other people your keys. So my first key is going to be that. My endpoint is going to be, and I'm just keeping track of that right there, so we don't have to worry about it later. Into your function app's application settings. So what we can, to access our application settings, what we can do, let's open another Azure tab. Whoops, it's wanting me to sign in again. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to find my function app, which should be in Serverless Demo 1. Functions, emotional GIFs. Just click into here where you have both function apps, and then what you can do, go into configuration. Once it loads, then what you can do is new application setting. So this is basically an environment variable, and what an environment variable is, it's something that it's almost like a hidden variable, right? So in your code, you can say process.env.varName, and you're able to access another value like this, which keeps it hidden from other people who are looking at your code, which is good because you don't want them being able to use your credits spending your money with this key. This key is very valuable right here. So what we're going to be calling this, let's just put our value right here. Let's call our subscription key right here. Go ahead and put that in there, add another one. Let's call this other one endpoint. We can call this one just endpoint like that. And we can have that as this, as this value. We can delete the backslash at the end, right? So let's go ahead and click OK. Go ahead and click save. We'll restart, that's completely fine. We're not running anything right now. Go ahead and click save, and that should say updating web app settings, and it might take a second. Perfect. So that's done. So edit your function to make a request to the Face API using node fetch. Right now we don't have node fetch installed, so let's go ahead and install it. What we can do is cd into emotional GIFs. Once we're emotional GIFs, what we can do is say npm install node-fetch. However, don't press enter, okay? Because we don't want the latest version of node fetch, because the latest version is a bit icky. We want a previous version, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to install node fetch. Let me check. We're going to install version 2.6.1, and this is the syntax on how you install npm package at a certain level or a certain version, right? Npm install node fetch, the @ symbol, such as gmail@gmail.com, right? And then the version number. Go ahead and click enter. It should say added. You should see that in your package.json node fetch right there. Perfect. And then what we can do is we can say const fetch is equal to require node-fetch. Just means that we're going to import fetch into our code from where we just installed it. So let's go ahead and edit your function, make a request using the Face to the Face API using node fetch, and send the emotion back in a body in JSON format. So lucky for you, we already provide the code. So the way we're going to do this is let's just take this function right here and paste it in. Right now, it looks like this code does nothing, right? All we're doing is, or not does nothing, sorry. This might look a bit confusing at first, right? So let's break this down, go ahead. So first we're creating an async function. All async means is that this function is going to be running in the background. So typically JavaScript has only one thread. And what this means is that we're going to be running this line, and then this line, then this line, and then this line. Nothing can be occurring at the same time. However, when we put async right here, we're telling this function, we're telling JavaScript that this function is asynchronous, which means this function can run in the background. This is good because we're going to be making an API call. What that means is we're going to be sending information from here to another place, which may cost a lot of time, which is, we call it expensive in, if you want to put it in CS terms. So what we can say is constant subscription key is equal to that. Currently, we don't have access to the process.env because we're testing locally right now, so we're just going to create another thing like that, just say equal to that, which is our key right there. And our URI base is going to be the same thing as our endpoint. So let's go ahead and comment that out. Say const URI base is equal to that like that. Perfect. But we also have to say plus that ending part right there, which just means that that is our full face API URL that we can use. Then after that, let's see, what else are we going to need to do? Call the face API, right? What is an async function? If you did not understand what I just said, go ahead and read this. It's probably better at explaining than I am, right? So what we're going to do next is we're going to be creating this object right here. Might look a bit confusing at first, but what we're doing is we're creating a new variable called params. We're sending it to a new object of URL search params. What this does is this basically constructs our URL for us. So if we just Google what this does, it's a lot easier for me. If I can find a good graphic on this. Let's see. Unfortunately, I do not believe that there's a good graphic. But you know, on some URLs, we can say example.com, right? And then the params would come here, message is equal to hello world. And then, and password is equal to 123, right? These right here are URL search params. So what we're doing here is essentially doing face ID is equal to true, like this, instead of hello world, like that. And another one is going to be what we're going to add in a second. The second one we want to add is, if you look at the documentation right here, it says return face attributes. That's a parameter. So we can say return face I can't spell attributes. I'm just going to be copying and pasting return face attributes. There we go. What we want is, if you look, we want emotion. So let's go ahead and just put emotion here. That's going to be creating our URL for us. Or it's going to be creating the back half of that URL for us. So after that, what we're going to be doing is, what we can say is, let's just take this whole code right here, and we are going to put that right after this. This is going to look very confusing right now. However, let's break this down. Method, right? What we're going to do right here is we're creating a fetch. What fetch does is it actually sends the information over. So we're going to do URI base, which is right here, and params to string, which creates this and turns it into what I was just talking about with this example.com. It turns that object into something like this. Then method, we're going to be making a post request because we're sending data over. Body, we're just going to send our, whoops, not know what I just clicked there. Body, we're just going to be sending our image, which is img. Headers, let's read the directions. It says, let's see. How do I specify a request? The content type header should be set to application/octet stream. What that means, what that means is that we're going to be sending binary data over, and that's what's going to be, and we're going to get that binary data through this parts variable. And the next header should be this header right here. You would need to read the documentation to know this. So I just deleted too much. Okay, let's just delete that like that. Perfect. This is the next header that you're going to need. This just says our subscription key is going to be our subscription key that we just defined before. What this does is it authenticates your request. So if you send a request without this subscription key, Azure is not going to know who you are and whether or not you're even allowed to make this request or not. So just having that there tells Azure that, okay, you are safe. We're allowed to give you information, right? After that, what we can do is we can say let data is equal to await. What await does, await can only be used in an async function. This is always true. You cannot use await in a regular synchronous JavaScript function. What await does is it's going to say, we're going to wait for this fetch to occur. We're going to pause right here, and we're going to wait for the data to come back. Once that data comes back, we're going to turn it into a JSON format, which JSON format, if you're unfamiliar with, looks like this, right? Name, and then a key right there like that. So it's key value pairs, kind of like a Python dictionary if you're familiar with that. Then we're just going to return data. The way we're going to call this function is, if you'll look right here, we already have the code for you. So we can actually delete converted result because we don't need to convert to a base64 string anymore. So if we just do that, what we can say is, if you'll look at this, const result is equal to await analyzed image parts 0.data. What parts does is, parts is every single value, or you can think of parts as almost a payload of the multi-part request. Right, so if you take parts 0, that's going to be the first file in parts. We're going to take the data attribute of the first file, right? Because in parts multi-part, you can send like 5 or 6 files. So index 1 would be the second file, index 0 would be the first file that we're sending. Since we're only sending one, we're just going to use parts 0.data, and then we're going to return that result after we analyze this image. Analyzing image is the function that we just created right there. Let's go ahead and test this. We can press Fn F5. Go ahead and it's going to install. It's going to go ahead and give us a URL right here. Let's go ahead and copy that URL, head over to Postman, create a new request, put in that URL, change this to a post request. Go ahead and go to body, go to form data, go to file, select files. I'm going to be sending this test.jpg file right here. Click send, and it says invalid media type. So let's see what went wrong. Bad argument, invalid media type. So let's go ahead and look at this. I actually don't know the error, so I'll be back in 1 minute after I figure out this error, and I will get back to you. Oh, okay. So the error was that I actually forgot to replace header value, right? The header value that we actually needed was, if we'll look at this, it says application/octet string. So while I was talking, I actually forgot to replace that. So let's go ahead and replace it. It's going to stop our function. Go ahead and run it again. Let's go ahead and it's going to throw a lot of messages. Click send again. You'll notice that we get our result back. We get the face rectangle, the coordinates of it, and we get the emotion, which is a 1 for happiness, which means that this person is very happy. Just to prove it to you, the image that I sent was right about here. Go ahead and look at that. This person does look pretty happy to me, so our function is working perfectly, which is good. Let's do that. Then it says place your function URL into a repository secret. The way we do that is, what we're going to do is, well, let's first deploy our function because we know that it works. So before we deploy, we have to delete those keys right there. Let's go ahead and delete our keys right here so people can't steal our information. And then we're going to deploy this function. So let's go ahead and head to our Azure tools, click this deploy button, deploy to serverless demo 1, click deploy. So this deployment is going to take a minute, but while it's deploying, what we can do is we can actually get our function URL. So let's go ahead and go to function. Actually, wait, no, it might generate a new function URL because we just deployed it. So let's go ahead and wait a minute, and after this deploying, I'll be right back. Cool, so my function has finished deploying. It says serverless demo 1 has been completed. Go ahead and click into emotional GIFs, get function URL. Copy that. And it says, place your function URL in a repository secret called emotional endpoint. So let's go ahead and open up our repository secrets. This might actually already be in there because I think I vaguely remember adding this before. But let's go ahead and look at this. Yeah, so we already have an emotional endpoint. So what we can do is let's just go ahead and update that because we want to make sure that it's actually the correct endpoint that we have. And then commit your code. The way we do that is through clear git add dot, well, let's actually cd dot git add dot git commit, type a commit message, add emotional, git commit dash m add emotional gifs, and then git push origin emotional gifs. Cool, so let's make sure we're on the right branch, right? We're on branch emotional gifs, which is good. Let's go ahead and make a pull request so the bot can test our code. I'll be right back after this test finishes. And you'll notice that the bot has approved our changes. The only thing that failed is I accidentally committed a secret, but that was before, and I will be removing that now. But yeah, the console bot approved our changes, so we're good. That's it for this video. Please let me know if it helped.